Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our third session of this morning on the 15 by 15 talks. My name is Shiv Malik and I am the moderator for this event. So the format of this event is pretty simple. Speaker gets 15 minutes, and then you, the audience, also get 15 minutes to ask your questions of the speaker. It all goes by very quickly. The speakers have been warned to keep it short and punchy, and hopefully you will also be lined up with your questions, which will be short and punchy too, and we'll get through a lot that way. There will be roving mics running down this side and that side for your questions. Please raise your hand, otherwise I won't be able to know that you have a question. But you can also, if you're into social media, which is basically everyone, hopefully, at this conference, then you can also do a couple of other things, which is to post your question up using the hashtag OECD4. We're in room 4, so it's OECD4. But you can also post comments there as well. You'll find a card on your seat. You might be sitting on it right now with further instructions. However, there is a warning. If you've already attended these talks, you know I've given this warning. And one time last year, I didn't give this warning and went horribly wrong, which is that people didn't realize that if you post a comment, it actually appears live behind the speaker. So if it's a negative comment, this is not a feedback form. If you found the talk a little boring, which last year someone did, it will appear, that comment, with your name right behind them. And it doesn't look good for the visuals later on. Just trust me on that one. So, without further ado, this talk is called Stopping Ocean Plastic, How Plastic Banks Blockchain Turn Waste into Currency. And our speaker is the wonderful Sean Frankson. So recently I moved into working for a ostensibly blockchain company. And I think probably everyone in the last 6 months certainly has heard of the word blockchain or cryptocurrency or something else like that. It certainly has become a buzzword. And of course, lots of people have also started to notice plastics and plastics use. So hopefully, Sean will be able to meet those divides. Even the OECD has noticed that they should stop using single-use plastics, and they've moved to these fancy green cups, which can be reused and heat-washed. So please take one. There's one at the back of the room. Well, take one if you're going to use it. Obviously, don't just take it. And then you can reuse it throughout the day and then give it back to them at the end of the day. Sean probably is, where you're over there, you're probably going, this is a terrible idea. Multi-use plastics are worse than single-use. I don't know. I'm sure he'll educate us very shortly. Sean is the co-founder of the Plastic Bank, a social enterprise that makes plastic waste a currency to stop ocean plastic while reducing global poverty. The Plastic Bank is now working with some of the largest organizations on the planet to help stop this issue. Sean has been named an Ashoka Emerging Innovator, an IBM Champion, and received the United Nations Momentum for Change Award at COP23. Please give him a warm round of applause. Thank you.
Thank you. So, ocean plastic is something that we've been focusing on for a long time. And there's been a lot of attention brought to ocean plastic. And when we start to look at ocean plastic, it becomes really scary when people say, we found a solution to ocean plastic. We can start scooping it out of the ocean. The solution to ocean plastic. But scooping plastic out of the ocean is really the last thing we need to do. I mean, if you look at this room, if we filled it with plastic all the way to the ceiling, that's the amount of plastic entering the ocean every single minute of every single day. And we call it an ocean plastic problem, but really, it's not a plastic problem. It's a human problem. And I think humans have the ability to solve anything that we create. But when we look at it, it's all about looking at it from the right angle. And we like to look at it through a metaphor. If you walked into the kitchen, the sink was overflowing, water pouring into the floor. All you had is a bucket and a plunger. What do you do first? And the answer is simply you turn off the tap. So as much as we talk about how do we scoop it out, how do we get it out, first we have to turn off the tap. And we started to look at business solutions to turn off the tap. And we started to look at how does the root cause of ocean plastic actually happen. And what we discovered is that 80% of ocean plastic actually starts on land in developing countries where they have almost no waste management systems. This is Peru, where the plastic's thrown into the riverbeds as soon as it rains, it's washed into the river, and it's really the world's rivers that is the source of most ocean plastic, because people throw it in the river as a way of throwing it away. But you can't throw something away without it going somewhere, and far too often away means the ocean. And this is a common scene. This is Baseco, Philippines, and this is a place close to our heart where we operate, and this is Haiti. And these scenes are more common than most people know all around the world. And the irony is that plastic's considered waste. It's treated as garbage. And when we look at how does this happen, it's not that people are evil people just polluting. The huge correlation in these areas, it's an abundant area of poverty. And when someone's just trying to survive for the day, it is impossible to care about the environment. It is possible to see beyond just trying to provide for your family. And we looked at this correlation of abundant plastic and abundant poverty and started to look at how do we put these two together to have a root cause solution. And we look at the concept that if you were on an island and there was a bar of gold just sitting there. Now, on this island, nobody liked gold, nobody would trade for gold, you couldn't get anything from it. In this case, would you even pick up that bar of gold? And this is a case of plastic because pound for pound, plastic is worth more than steel. When it's sorted and recycled, plastic has value. And plastic that is so abundant in these areas with poverty can truly be a source of value and opportunity. And when we look at the gold metaphor, the irony is, if every single piece of plastic was worth $1, every single bottle, we would not have a single bottle on the ground anywhere in the world. And we found it doesn't need to be $1 to be too valuable to be picked up. And we just have to find that right point. So we started to look at the world's organic recycling systems and studying exactly what was working and what wasn't. And quite often, recycling in third world countries gets called waste picking, scavenging, it's diminishing, it can be a very last resort, because that's just the way the industry's been. But we started to look at why is that the case? And the two biggest pain points that we found, one was dignity. Nobody wants to be called a waste picker. Nobody wants to be a scavenger. Nobody wants to be disregarded in society. And the second was stability, and that's price stability. Plastic is a commodity price. It goes up and down with commodity markets. And one of the world's dirty secrets was about 4 years ago, right after peak oil prices went down enough that it's actually cheaper to buy new plastic than recycled plastic, and 90% of the world's organic recycling went away. And we came in with the idea of what if we could dignify recycling by bringing programs with training, support, uniforms, and bringing in a social plastic price where it's not the lowest price possible, which most supply chains negotiate down to. The price comes with the collector first, where we can gradually increase the amount that the collector always receives, where it can go from being a last resort to a way to thrive and improve a family, to a way to improve a community. So we started to look at how do we dignify recycling and continuously put more value into the hands of the people collecting. And we started to look at different programs where instead of just getting cash, you could come in and you could get food, you could get different necessities, different things that the household needs, all through recycling, in bright, proud community centers and ways that people can be proud to recycle. And we started to look at local problems and how do we add more value into the hands of the collector. And again, in Haiti, 75% of people do not have power in their homes, yet they have cell phones. And someone making $1 a day actually pays about 20 cents to charge their cell phone, which is a crazy amount of income. But what if you could simply have a solar-powered recycling center that includes cell phone charging, and all you need to do is bring the bottles that are abundantly all over, or any type of plastic, and you can get your cell phone charging. We have sustainable cooking fuels where you can get your cooking fuel. And then this now invites an entire community where it's not just recyclers recycling for a living. It's a community realizing that plastic's not waste. I don't recycle for a living, but I do get my phone charged from it. I get my cooking fuel. I get my necessities. And this is where we can invite an entire community to be part of these recycling ecosystems, where recycling can be a pride point. And as we continue to have impoverished communities become that little bit more developed, the entire chain of bringing in an income stream to a community empowers education, it empowers prosperity, and we take this community approach. So we've started in Haiti, moved to Philippines, Brazil, expanding around the world, but realized very quickly, we can't just do it one location at a time. That just becomes a campaign, a nice-to-do thing. It has to be something everywhere in the world. We need recycling to be a universal earned income, which anyone can thrive and improve a livelihood. And this is where technology comes in from us, where, first, we've had this huge wave. We've had over 1 million people on social media ask for social plastic. We've had people calling companies out, why aren't you using social plastic? And this has helped us attract some of the largest partners on the planet. So to really just make it super clear how it works in our communities, someone comes in, collects plastic, brings it to a location, it's sorted by type, color, they're given value for it. That sorted plastic never gets mixed from that point, and we sell it to large corporations to use as social plastic in their products instead of new plastic. So to meet this demand for consumers asking, if I'm going to use a plastic, it should be one of the most socially conscious and environmentally conscious plastics possible. And this is the demand that we've started to do. So, for instance, this was one of our water bottle lines, where the plastic itself wasn't actually used in this bottle, but the bottle helped remove 2 kilos of plastic for every bottle that they made. And this is what we've launched as a plastic neutralization program, where not every supply chain can change overnight. But step one, if you have to use plastic, we have programs that allow a product to extract more plastic from the environment than it uses. We have programs that allow people to become plastic neutral by extracting more plastic from the environment than you use in a year. And we have programs for companies, for products, for people, all so that we can extract more plastic than we use. Now, we also have programs where people can use the plastic. But to go beyond just, again, campaigns and just nice to have, initiatives, we look at the root cause. We look at how can any of our clients not just use our plastic, buy our plastic, but improve a community. We have activation packages where this was a town in Haiti where Henkel brought in a brand new center where there's now a recycling community. There's an entire economy of people who can recycle. But if you look at the big solar light, we also bring in community lighting. So beyond just the recycling benefits, the community now has solar-powered lighting. It has universal seating where anyone can come in and do homework at night and can see this not just as a recycling initiative, but it's a community center. And we look at how do we have these root cause, permanent solutions that will ongoing self-sustain that these areas stay clean. And again, if you look, there's not a single piece of plastic on the ground around this center. And this is where, to really expand, it needs to go beyond sponsored centers to be as simple as anyone with a cell phone and a scale anywhere on the planet can start their own recycling business. And this is what we do through technology. We've been working very closely with IBM to architect a blockchain application that really works for every single person, both in our recycling ecosystems, and soon we'll be opening it to any person in the world to find your path of purpose to have a meaningful contribution through our programs. But in country, the collector can download the app, find exactly where they can bring their plastic, how much it's worth. But also, using blockchain, we have a digital savings. We have our own asset-backed token where we can slowly phase out cash when it's needed and when it's wanted to have our own digital token. So meaning somebody who does not qualify for a bank account, which is most of the people who recycle around the world, can now have a blockchain-verified digital savings account. So if you have to save $250 to send a child to school, you don't need to hide it in a home. You don't need to carry it across town. You can simply just save it in the account and then transfer the funds to pay for the tuition or healthcare or other benefits. And we can continue to have people qualify for things that we can bring in and really have a blockchain-verified proof of delivery. So if we're promising that a collector is being paid a fair amount, if we're promising that certain initiatives can come in and be given to the people who need it, we actually have that blockchain-verified proof of delivery that they got exactly what was promised. And this is an app that works for anyone in the ecosystem. So if I'm a collector, I have my savings, my way to find where to go. If I want to start a recycling business anywhere in the world, it's a full-featured recycling business to keep track of the inventory, to qualify for rewards where we can pay the collectors 3 to 5 times more because we can blockchain verify that they're receiving exactly what it is, which is where we can create these recycling ecosystems anywhere on the planet and continuously look at how do we improve communities, how do we clean communities, and how do we just change the way people see plastic. And it's a huge impact for the people involved. And one of the most common things when we ask, what have you gotten out of recycling? Really, the most common thing that comes time and time again is people being proud that I can send my daughters to school. Anyone who recycles through the program can earn enough to send their entire family to school. And quite often, when you have to choose between children anywhere on the planet, it's the daughters that get left out. But we all know when you empower women, you empower the world. And we continuously look at ways to create these programs to empower women to empower their community. Now, one of the reasons that I've been so optimistic about the future of this planet is that I've seen a lot of the worst of what we're doing on the environmental side. But I've really come to realize corporations have the power to change the way everything works. Because today, the modern consumer, with your vote and your voice, really has the power to change the way corporations operate. And we're starting to see this trend where corporations are actually starting to bring in social good initiatives, compete on social good initiatives, because that's what the new consumer wants. And that's really what the world needs. I mean, it used to be a hippie thing to be a responsible consumer. Now it's kind of being called a millennial thing. But I honestly think we're on the verge of becoming a human thing, where technology makes it easy to look at a product and ask, is this good for the planet? Is it good for people? And we can start to make decisions as a responsible consumer. And it's this power where everyone can have that paradigm where it's actually becoming easy and transparent, that everyone can just give a little bit more to the world than you take. And these are the kind of programs that, not just what we're doing, but we're seeing all over the planet. When we look at how do we save these environmental catastrophes, it's not just governments, it's not just people, it's not just companies, it's everybody coming together and just looking at how do we give a little bit more than we take. And I believe that is the formula that the more we see, the more we start to see change. So I'll open it up to any questions.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sean. That was a fantastic talk. And clearly, you've been doing a lot of amazing work around the world. Yes, so if you have questions, there are roving mics. Please introduce yourself beforehand, keep your questions short, and raise the mic to your mouth, is what I'm being told by the audio person, otherwise it doesn't work. So let me ask you a first question, if I can take that privilege. Is plastic possibly the worst substance that humanity's ever invented, given the problems it's created?
I think plastic was probably introduced to the world in the worst way possible. Plastic, especially in the medical world, there's a lot of things where plastic can be easily formed, an absolute necessity, but plastic's permanent. But ironically, plastic, if you've ever seen the early ads way back in the 50s, 60s, whenever it was, plastic was introduced even in commercials that said, now mom doesn't need to do the dishes because you can throw out the cups and the cutlery. So a permanent substance was introduced to be a single-use substance, which made no sense. And because it was introduced to be a single-use substance quite often, without being introduced the idea of being a recyclable substance, we had to backtrack. So, you know, I always get the number wrong, but it's something like 4 trillion pounds of plastic is what sits on this planet, because it took till then to really start looking at, well, shouldn't we mandate and make it easy to have closed-loop recycling? And, you know, the irony with plastic is when we have continuous closed-loop recycling, to me it becomes an ideal thing for various uses that's needed, but quite often it's just used in the wrong way. But yeah, my quick version of it is, yeah, when introduced properly on a closed-loop substance, it really does become a better version than a lot of alternatives that I've heard. And instead of trying to replace recycled plastic, I think we just got to keep using the 4 trillion pounds that already sits on the planet.
And I know we've got a question from the lady at the back there, but just 1 second. Can you just give us a prognosis on something like that, on the Green Cup? The OECD, I'm sure, wants to know whether they've done the right thing, or should they just wait and get bamboo cups in 5 years or whatever?
Well, no, even the idea of these, it's reusable. So even, I believe if I heard right, it's washable being the thing. So it's not even meant to be a single-use recycled. It's reusable. I mean, we always look at the concept of when you have a plastic spoon or a plastic fork that's gone from the ground all the way around the world just so that you don't have to wash a fork. And sometimes the uses just make no sense.
Well done, OECD. Good. Got a thumbs up from Sean. Lady at the back there.
Hi. I'm here.
Hello.
Hi, my name is Leila Schwark. I have a question. On the social work that you are doing, bringing the concept of blockchain and saving through the crypto universe to people that are on that 20 cents to charge their phone on $1 daily. How do you manage that? And how do you manage that concept for them for the future to really see that those $250 are going to go to university or to school for their daughters when the day-to-day life is something they hardly manage?
Yeah, so there's a couple sides on that. So, I mean, one, I think it was introduced as well on the intro here. I think blockchain is such an important technology. It's also sometimes so overhyped in the world of cryptocurrency. So even in our own programs, someone doesn't necessarily need to know that it's a blockchain-based anything as compared to it's a savings account when you can visibly see the exact savings in your account. So being introduced, it's very much the same way with anyone with a mobile bank account, a mobile payment system, which is becoming quite popular around the world. That from the collector's point, they just need to see and trust that I can always see the value that's there, and I always know I can exchange it. So ours isn't a cryptocurrency that fluctuates because it's asset backed by the US dollar. So perceptually, it's the same as just saying I've loaded $5 in your account. Ah, I see it. And so important with blockchain that people don't overhype everything to confuse people, which quite often the market does, because everyone who talks about blockchain loves to sound so smart, but rarely likes to make the person feeling smart who heard what blockchain is. So for us, it's all just absolute simplicity of just trust and being able to see what it's there. And what was the second part of the question?
I guess that's it, and the feeling, obviously, of seeing those $5 converted into something, right?
Oh yeah, so it's all visible. Oh, and the other part too is even when we look at how do we guarantee that, say, someone is getting school tuition and things like that. In addition to our token, we actually have a digital coupon system as well. So I don't believe in restricting 100% of what somebody does. That's entirely their choice. But when we have programs where companies want to sponsor school tuition that just sends children to school or just sends little girls to school, we can actually create digital coupons throughout the system that can only be redeemed at specific locations, which is also where we can have plastic that has absolutely no recyclable value, but someone who sponsors a collection of it by giving away school tuitions or health insurance credits, which our system can then ensure only can be spent at those locations. So we kind of tackle both ends in it.
Gentleman over here.
Yes, hello, I'm Diego Gallardo. I work at Suez, and I just wonder, I'm here.
No.
So I work at Suez, and of course, I just wonder if you have ever thought about developing a partnership with, major or any company that's involved on proposed service for municipalities on recycling or things like that.
Yeah, we're a huge partnership-based organization where we can kind of be the best at what we do and especially find any local infrastructure. So whether it's the starting points of recycling, starting points for even any banking organization or any like mobile telecoms that can have a cash out for us. So for us, anywhere we go, it's really location by location. How do we empower partnerships where we're not the solution, we're almost just an application that can be put on top of an ecosystem is how we design to fit in everywhere. So any partnerships in mind, please reach out.
I think we've got 2 questions over here, right? Okay, could we I'll get the lady in who's already got the microphone, and then I'll come to you. Don't worry, we'll get them all.
Hi, thank you very much for the great talk. Mirto Tripathi, I'm a French Academy of Water. And this is obviously a great project, and it kind of bounces back on the previous question. There is a lot of great ideas, and many of them are stuck at the idea stage. You obviously managed to take it to the implementation stage and to globalize it as much as possible, and hopefully even more in the days and years to come. What would you say was for you the way, what helped you go from the idea stage to the globalization stage? Is that the major partnerships? Did you go around all the big companies trying to make yourself known, from I'm no one to, oh, hey, you know, you heard my name and you kind of helped me out with money and reputation and logistics and so on?
Can I jump in there and also ask, how long did it take to do the community aspect of this, as in talking to the community and bringing that out and planning that aspect, if you don't mind? If that.
For sure, yeah, I can kind of mirror the two as well. So we've been about 5 years in the running from creating the idea. So David Katz is the CEO of the Plastic Bank who came up with the idea. I co-founded the company with him. And initially, it started with that idea that if we could make plastic too valuable to go in the ocean, we could stop plastic from entering it. And really, at that starting point, it was, you know, from there, we just got to act and figure out as we go. You know, there is no clear roadmap. There is no crystal clear, will it work, will anything? But we come from an entrepreneurial background of just the faster you act, the faster you try things, the more you shed out to the world of here's what we're doing, how can you help? The more things just get possible. So we started by creating a multi-million person social media demand to show a clear demand for a social plastic. Then took that demand to the corporations and said, look, people are asking for it, they want it. How do we make this work? All while in the background figuring out how those recycling systems work, how to improve a community. When it comes to communities, it's so far taken about 2 years of putting in foundations, as we kind of call, you have to have the foundations of love and trust and support, and really not just setting things up, but having those local communities be empowered to run the system as compared to us coming into local communities. So, you know, every country, every area is a learning curve, and every unique culture, every unique environment has very unique challenges. But we kind of came to the solution that if we can just get a model that's 80% right and then 20% adapted to each culture, each partnership, each opportunity, it was really just figuring out what that 80% is. And then for us, that's where we took what works in the physical world to how do we digitize that 80% to have it anywhere in the world that we're not. Someone could download the app and soon even be given kind of a path of how to create the entire ecosystem, improve lives, and then have us be able to come in and just increase the value people receive. But it's definitely an act as you go, and if you're not acting, you're not learning, and that's always been our philosophy.
Okay, I think we have time for one more question. The lady in white there.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Gracia from Indonesia, and I'm interested to see your explanation, the connections between your great ideas of social plastic tagline and the cryptocurrency and the digitalization. I've got 2 questions. First, what is your long-term goal, especially in 10 until 20 years, doing this business? And then second one, what would you suggest or would you like to convince to the governments if this has been potentially taking in account to policy level? Thank you.
Perfect, yeah. And Indonesia is where we're currently in the planning for our next expansion, so we'll be there soon. Yeah, for us, it's... first part of the question again, I heard that. Oh, yeah, so, you know, especially our 2030 goal, when we look at it, yeah, it can't just be us being a part of this. So our goal is to have 1 billion people around the world that we're enrolling into this solution. So whether it's people in the developing countries, the developed world, all working together where it can't just be our ideas, it's really got to be an ideation community of everybody improving the programs, bringing in ideas, contributing. So 1 billion user base is really what we're looking at for 2030, with the goal of the company is purely to stop ocean plastic, to have it universally known in every community where it's leaking into the ocean that it's leaking money. And when we can have that and that global awareness of plastic has value, and have that global awareness that plastic doesn't go into the rivers, doesn't go into the ocean, that's really what we exist to do. And you know, the secondary aspect is to continuously just redefine a poverty bar by a universal earned income. But stopping ocean plastic is really the big thing. And if I had any requests to governments, and we're slowly seeing this in various countries, is to simply just require closed-loop programs. That if someone is going to give somebody something, you have to be able to take it back. You have to be able to recycle it, repurpose it, and I think slowly we are seeing those kind of programs. You know, my quick note, it always baffles me at a fast food restaurant why it's not mandated if you hand somebody a bag or wrap or anything that you don't have a solution to take it back when it's done. And if we look at that everyone just, if you're going to use something, have a solution to close the loop as a requirement, I think a lot of problems will start to get innovative business solutions and even bring in more economies around recycling. Just the more it just becomes, if something can be recycled, it should be.
Thank you very much, Sean. That was a fascinating talk and fascinating to learn what you've been doing. Please give him a warm round of applause.
Thank you.
We'll be back shortly in about an hour and a half, probably after the lunch, or is it 2 hours or something like that, with 2 further talks. So please join us then. Enjoy your break. Enjoy networking. Sean and the lady over there should probably keep chatting. See you later. Thank you very much for joining us.